I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the current leader of the Premier League, Glen Durrant. How are you doing?
I'm very good, actually. A drizzly Monday morning, etc., etc. But no, I feel quite good, and really looking forward now to the next few weeks, and hopefully get some competitive darts going again.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a busy one for you. And we last had you on the show back in February when we had a chat at the Premier League Media Day in Aberdeen. Could you ever imagine we'd be in August now and talking about the Premier League season being only 6 games old?
Yeah, I don't think anybody will ever forget 2020. It was all going so well. I mean, at least I can say I've tasted a Premier League with a full crowd, etc. I feel very, very blessed, but also feel a little bit cheated as well. I'm not playing in front of certainly sort of Newcastle against the world champion, right on my doorstep of where I live. It's just been an unbelievable year, but I'm one of the lucky ones. There's people going through very, very difficult times right now, so whatever sulking I did was done very, very short period, and I'm just glad for everything I get at the moment, but a strange year.
Touched on the Newcastle night there. We're talking on a Monday morning. The PDC have just released an update on the Premier League. 4 more nights are going to be held in Milton Keynes behind closed doors. Newcastle's one of those nights now to be cancelled. What was your reaction to that news?
One thing about the PDC is the communication is fantastic, and I've been so impressed with the professionalism of they're trying to do the work in the government guidelines. Things change on a daily basis, and hopefully during this interview I'll give you an example of just trying to get over to the autumn series and issues with flights and everything. But the PDC have been fantastic, and I got the news, was it maybe yesterday or the day before that, there was going to be an announcement this morning in relation to that. On a personal level, I just want the Premier League to be completed, so I can, I would hate for it to have ended mid-season, etc. So at least it's all going to be done and dusted. It's just a shame it's behind closed doors. It would be amazing to be playing in front of packed arenas, but that's just not going to happen, and you've got to adapt and understand the reality of the situation that we're in. So I'm quite pleased that there's a calendar there. It's going to be 12 nights, I think it is, something like that, at Milton Keynes behind closed doors. And who knows, I've been watching the snooker and the matchroom stuff that Mr. Hearn does, and maybe he'll get a time where we'll come to the playoffs and there'll be small crowds or reduced crowds, etc. But in answer to your question, I'm just glad it's going to be finished.
Just going back to that first night of the Premier League in Aberdeen, as I said, I was there and I was waxing lyrical when you came out to Elvis Costello, Pump It Up, only to find out a few days later it was the wrong Pump It Up. As a player, does that throw you at all coming out to the wrong song? Or I know you went on to beat Michael Smith in that game, but did it affect you at all?
Yeah, I like that question, because when I used to walk out in the BDO, I reckon I used to gain 2 or 3% off the walk on it. Iconic song which Adrian Lewis walks out doing the PDC, and it's very much a Middlesbrough Football Club song, and the whole sort of Teesside, it's a very iconic song for us, and it used to lift me. I've not really had that walk on in the PDC yet. I've tried maybe 4, but the one I've always wanted to walk on to, for whatever reason I haven't yet. And Pump It Up is what my daughter sort of said, I think this is a great one for you, Dad. And when I stood at Aberdeen, I was like, what the hell is this? And I actually walked past Mac Elton and I was like, what is this? So whether it helped me relax a little bit, because I did play really well against Michael Smith that day. But some people say there's no importance. I'm sure if you ask someone like Gary Anderson or something, there'd be no importance to a walk on. But I just haven't found that one for the PDC yet.
And you couldn't have asked for a much better start to life in the Premier League, top of the league after 6 games before the season was postponed. How did you find those 6 weeks as a Premier League player and everything that comes with it?
Actually, very difficult. Even sort of in the back room, just who am I going to pair up with, who am I going to practice with, because people have built up relationships over the years. I'm surprised to see that Michael van Gerwen and Gerwin Price practice together. I would have thought they were big rivals, and so it took certainly a few weeks to sort of just get used to the whole process and the procedures that are in place and everything there. So and you sit and realise, one day I've got Peter Wright, the next week I've got Michael van Gerwen. It's just, I'm up there with the elite right now, and it's pretty fantastic. So the games I was looking at trying to win was obviously Fallon, I thought, if I play my game, I'll win that game. And I had a fantastic record against Nathan Aspinall, and they're the 2 games that I dropped points on. So it's been pretty crazy. But wins over, people like Gary Anderson, Michael Smith, they're big wins for me.
And we're gearing up now for the Premier League to resume behind closed doors in Milton Keynes next week. We've got the 6 nights back to back, a 5-month gap between Premier League games it will be. Has the Premier League always been not far from your mind, or has there been a time during those 5 months where you've been reminded about it and that you're top of the table as well?
Yeah, I mean, I love my Twitter and everything, so someone said I'm the 3rd highest player to be sat at the top of the Premier League. So it's it's always at the back of my mind because for many reasons. The moment I got told about the Premier League was an absolutely massive moment in my darting life, and for it to be taken away halfway through the season was quite tough. And it's up there, honestly, when you're playing in front of the crowds of the Premier League. It's right up there with the top things I've ever done in the game, and it's very, very special, and it's a real privilege to be involved, and to be sat on top of the Premier League. It's been actually good for my reputation. I've had messages from fans who probably only watch the Premier League and Ali Pali. So there's a whole new sort of fan base come from people who are now watching me play, who've never heard of me in the BDO or things I'm doing on the Pro Tour. So it's been very good for the reputation.
And the last time we saw you on our screens was a few weeks ago now. We had the World Match Play, the first big event to take place since this pandemic broke out. Another deep run for yourself, getting to the semi-finals. Firstly, how did you find that experience of playing a PDC major behind closed doors, and the World Match Play in particular being away from Blackpool?
Well, the first part of it, I thought the PDC and Sky done a fantastic production. Honestly, genuinely, when I got there, it was. I felt when I was playing on there that there was a crowd behind us at times. So for me, it's all about the word adapt. And I've played in the BDO a long time, and won World Masters and Finders Masters in front of fairly small crowds under a couple of hundred. It's the World Darts Trophy. I played in front of 27 people. So I was used to sort of playing on a stage where you can hear the scraping of a chair, or you can hear something in the background, or so I felt like I adapted quite well there. But honestly, the production, the lights, the Champions Wall, I thought it was great, and I was there to try and win it. When you're beating Peter Wright in the second round and you're seeing all the seeds around your fall, there was a big opportunity for me.
Yeah, that was an impressive win against Peter Wright, and then the comeback against Vincent van der Voort to get through to that semi-final. And you said in an interview with your local paper the semi-final defeat to Dimitri van den Bergh was a tough loss to take. Was it the closeness of the game that was most disappointing, or something else?
I've never lost to Dimi, and I know he sort of looks up to me as well. And it was a game I thought I was capable of winning. And when you look at sort of self-reflection, and it was a real tough one to take, because how many opportunities are you going to get to win a PDC major when all top 4 seeds are out? It was a real tough one to take, and I lost to an inspired Dimmy. I was glad when I come off to see that we both averaged 99. It was a good game. It was just nip and tuck, and even very early I went in a 2-0 lead and missed double 16 for a 3-0 lead, and as early as that, it could have had a difference in the outcome. And at 9 each, I missed 2 darts to go back in front again. And then when I went 15-14 ahead, it was tough to take to lose. If I'd have got beat something like 17-7, I would have been okay. But when you dodge a bullet like I did against Vincent van der Voort, sometimes you think that your name's on the trophy. And I think that's why it was a real heartbreaker for me, and still is now, because the World Match Play for me is the one that was I was a BDO player. I went as a guest to the World Match Play and fell in love with the PDC. So that trophy, I felt, had sort of resonated for me. It sort of inspires me, and I would have been well chuffed to have won that.
You touched on earlier the autumn series. That's what we've got coming up after this round of Premier League games in Germany. A few players, including yourself, put out that your flights have been cancelled. What's the latest your end, and have you got any other arrangements sorted?
I'm in a fantastic WhatsApp group with the Geordies, Chris Dobie, Ryan Joyce, Adam Hunt, and we can't help but sort of laugh rather than cry at the moment, because we've booked flights via Amsterdam, so Newcastle, Amsterdam, and now the quarantine rules come in for Holland, which includes just a stop off in an airport. So we then looked at Newcastle to Heathrow, Heathrow to Hanover. That's now actually been cancelled. So, luckily I've got a manager, and, I'm going to let Mac Elkin do it. Mac said it's all in hand. He's got drivers in Germany, etc. And, you just concentrate. But I like to be there to try and support Chris and Ryan and Adam as well, because it's nice to travel as a group. But, they're the kind of things I guess people don't see. And, just getting from country to country at this moment, and which changes on a daily basis, is they're the trials and tribulations of being a professional dart player at the moment.
We'll finish up with a few questions from our listeners, and the first one comes from Stevie King, who says that you used the pear-shaped flights on your darts, but have you ever tried the standard-shaped flights?
Well, that is a very, very interesting question, and watch this space at the Premier League next week. And I've been using this time to tinker a little bit. I'm still using my Target Does a Dart, but it's a brand new set I'm using, so the ones I used in the match play were about 10 months, 11 months of play. So I'm using a brand new set of darts, and I'm also using a different flight, which I've been sort of tinkering with for about 6 months now. I'm expecting the final design to land on my doorstep tomorrow. Target said I should get them for Tuesday. So I won't be playing with a pear-shaped flight at the Premier League unless I have a real wobble. I'm playing Gabriel Clemens again tonight on an online match, and we had a good game with last week. He beat me 11-10, but he averaged 104, and the flight felt really, really good. So I could be going away from the pair flight for the first time in 20, 30 years.
Interesting. Well, next one comes from Ben Hudd, who wants to know, would winning the Premier League top winning the Lakeside?
Yeah, I think it would. Like I said, the first Lakeside was spectacular, fantastic, amazing. The second and third, not so much. Even some of my semi-finals are sort of on a par to second and third. That feeling I had when I hit double 16 for the first Lakeside would be tough to beat, but you win the Premier League, I think you can look in the mirror and say, you're the best player in the world at that point. On that given night, if you beat Michael van Gerwen, Peter Wright, Gezi Price, if you beat players like that, then surely there'd be more job satisfaction out of winning the BDO. So, but like I said, that first BDO was very, very special.
Last one then comes from Charlie Gray. He says that you're his favourite player, and he says, can you remember what you did on your 21st birthday, as it's his 21st this Thursday?
Charlie's very special. He's looking after my Twitter account now, and I've tried to send him a few things. I know he's a big fan. At 21-year-old, I was working behind a karaoke, pressing play, pause, and eject. Darts was just a distant dream at that point. I was just working during the day and working on a karaoke on the night to, just to pay the bills, etc. So yeah, not very glamorous when I was 21-year-old. But I say to young dart players now, I didn't win my first darts title till I was 41. I didn't win a BDO tournament until I was 42. So my career all sort of come really, really late. So that's why I love working with young players that have got such an exciting future that they don't need to have it overnight. Some people are just born with an unbelievable ability, and some it takes time. And my story is about someone who it all come good. 45-year-old to 50-year-old. It's been a great story there. So I'd say to Charlie, just enjoy it, enjoy your darts, and just take this opportunity to say thank you for everything that you do for me, Charlie.
Definitely. Well, Glenn, it's always a pleasure to get you on the show. Really appreciate you taking out some time to have a chat with us, and wish you all the best with the restart of the Premier League next week.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you, Alex.